concerning UFOs, Atlanteans, extraterrestrials, underground ancient alien bases, Project Blue Beam. This is an interview of the Greek general Gardamitsis, taken October 3rd, 2016, and he reveals a lot of information. I'm translating for you from a Greek article. Who are they and where are they hiding? Are they hiding behind the Andromedans, the apostates, and the reptilians? What does the next year have in store for us? And do we not know about Putin? Now let's see what he has to say about Putin as well. Now, the honor and pleasure of hosting General George Kardamitsis, an exclusive interview covering, as far as possible, a wide range of topics. And this is how it goes. Good morning. For a start, we'll like you to tell us, so the readers and people who do not know you, who are you? Who is George Kardamitsis? He says, I was born in Athens. I attended the 6th grade high school. There was no high school in my time, in the era of, an area of Athens. I was a scout from the age of 12 to the age of 17, became the deputy team leader. Scouting at the time had military discipline. After a competition, I was awarded the highest scout degree of the Scout of the King. We know at that time, of course, when he was growing up, Greece was a kingdom under the King Constantine. Now, after that, after the coup, there was, of course, a change of government. It's now no royalty anymore. Greece is a democracy. Now, he says, after competition, awarded the highest degree of Scout of the King, which was personally awarded to me by the then successor Constantine. At the age of 18, after a competition, I entered the Military School of Guards and graduated in 1965. My class was the first to start the 4-year study at the school. You graduated and enlisted in the infantry, and during my active service, I attended all the infantry schools as well as the Higher School of War and the School of National Defense, he said. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. Of course, here he's trying to give us some of his background to give us his credibility. Now, he went to the School of National Defense. He says, I served in combat units of the infantry and in the staffs of large units in various parts of the country. And he says from 1987, I'm missing a lot of details because you don't need to, you won't know the areas if I tell them. From 1987 to 91, I served in the Information Security Psychological Operations Directorate of Eureka as lieutenant colonel and colonel for at least 2 years. As its director, I was demobilized with the rank of lieutenant general in 1993. In 1981, as major, the army sent me to Strasbourg, France, for 2 months, where I attended French army infantry and armor exercises. I know English and French. I was also, as a lieutenant colonel and colonel, a professor in the following military academies in matters of information, security, and psychological operations: Naval War High School, High School of Aviation War, High School of Nursing Officers Production School, School of National Defense, the highest school of the Armed Forces, School of Non-Commissioned Officers, SMI, of which I was also deputy commander. From a young age, I liked to read Greek and foreign history and mythology, something that continues to this day. I also had a hobby of photography, not today's digital, not just filmmaking, but also film editing and printing. And my biggest hobby is observing the night sky from when I was a small child. As a senior officer, the question was, have you personally seen or heard testimonies from other colleagues or subordinates about unidentified flying objects in Greece or elsewhere? He says, I have been dealing with the subject of extraterrestrial life since I was very young, and without anyone telling me about it, always from the age of 8, I looked at the sky and saw strange things. I have seen many times discoid and purid UFOs in the sky, especially in northern Greece, eastern Macedonia, and Thrace, as well as the islands of the eastern Aegean. Chios, and especially in Samos, where I lived for 6 months a year. Also, my colleagues and friends have seen such phenomena. Of course, many do not speak openly for fear of being ridiculed. Also, many fellow pilots of the Air Force have told me that they have seen many times UFOs of different sizes and even very close to their planes. But the service forbids them to talk about this. Now, could these UFOs be of extraterrestrial origin and construction, or is there a possibility that they are secret vehicles of earthly origin and construction? He says some are of extraterrestrial origin, some are of the secret space program of the USA and Russia, and others are of apostates who come from their underground bases. The extraterrestrials that are mostly Andromeda Olympia, at least to me and some of my friends, create a strange phenomenon of calm. According to some ancient texts, the Olympians had chariots and flew, while elsewhere the impression is given that these were actions that did not require material means of transportation. What is your opinion? The question is. And he says, I am of the opinion that the chariots, vehicles used they themselves for long distance travel. As for appearances on earthlings, I think they were copies of them, since they themselves are forms of maximum energy, and if they appear to us like that, we will definitely burn. Do you have a blog, is a question. In it, one finds a theme that, in addition to modern reality, focuses on issues of our unknown or forbidden history, from our so-called mythology to the present day. Many of them have to do with paradoxical issues for many people, such as the campaign of Hercules across our borders, the occult history of our planet, the so-called hollow earth, the fact that the moon is an artificial spaceship, but also for Andromeda, for reptilians and apostates, for the Galactic Confederation, and much more. Where does all this come from? Other than our mythology, he says, which is essentially our ancient history, regardless of whether some who do not like it call it mythology, which is written in an allegorical way most of the time, and other than the ancient Greek literature. Also from 1997, some people of Greek origin around the world began to receive messages from Andromedans Olympians on computers that were not connected to the internet. One of the first messages said, "We are the Olympians, we are not gods as you call us. God is the only one we call all light." For the last 5 years, they have been sending mental messages to so many people due to the great awakening that exists. There are many books about it, like my colleague General Gerasimus Kalogerakis wrote. There are also many blogs on the internet that say a lot about this topic. Question, who are the Andromedans and what is their relationship with the Olympian gods of ancient Greece? Olympian gods, the Andromedans are the inhabitants of the great Andromeda galaxy. There are two smaller ones, which is 2,300,000 light years away from Earth and is 220,000 light years across and is twice the size of our own spiral galaxy. All three Andromeda galaxies make up the Andromeda constellation. And according to the message from Olympia, the colonization of the stellar systems of the Andromeda galaxy took place 70 million Earth years ago by another ancient galaxy. 50 million years ago, when its civilization reached its highest point by order of the All-Light, the supreme principle of creation of all God, it was established by the Holy Lord of Light, Zeus, and Andromeda State Empire E, which includes 3,657 stellar systems from the Andromeda galaxy of the same name. In the upper layers of the biomarker zone of the Andromeda galaxy, molecules of higher transcendental entities of high energy are hatched with properties inconceivable by the human intellect. These entities are the ruling class, and some of them are rulers of galaxies and stellar systems. The earthlings called them gods of Olympus or Olympians. In the lower layers hatch the offspring of material entities intended for the colonization of stellar systems. Among them are the Hellenes of Epsilon. The Andromedans as entities are identical to the inhabitants of the Earth, with a height of 2 meters or 2.2 meters. They can be easily embodied without problems, implemented and dematerialized at will. They reproduce organically in a state of concentration like the terrestrial humans, while in cases of emergency they reproduce by spiritual refraction and in fields of density that can technologically accelerate the gestation time. They communicate telepathically to know each other. They act like a human being when needed and act freely as separate units when they wish. They use their vocal cords only when there is a reason to speak. Otherwise, they project their thoughts and are read by others. They use the script Greek only to preserve confidential information and to record events in the archives of world history. With the help of holography and bundles of tachyons and neons, they can simultaneously send energy copies of their form or ships to many parts of the galaxy and the universe to gather information and execute missions. They can also deal with multiple issues at the same time with their mind control and their holographic copies. They are the intellectuals and sages of the universe. They live, depending on the breed they belong to, from 1,000 to 3,000 years. Senior leaders, spiritual entities, and teachers live up to 10,000 years and more. Transcendent entities, Olympians on Earth, are immortal, he said. The rival awe of the Andromedans are the apostates and the reptilians. But tell me, are there any good and bad reptilians? Are there good and bad Andromedans? Can we single them out? The general says only those who are now experienced in this field can distinguish them, the reptilians. That is why we must be careful. There are also blogs on the network of the so-called White Brotherhood of Apostates, Jesuits, Illuminati, etc., which are presented as belonging to the Olympians and misleading, which is the Galactic Federation of Light. To be believed, they say 80% truths and the rest they want to go through. Most of them almost never mention the Olympians. As for the bad Andromedans, yes, there is a small part of them, of the 3 Andromeda galaxies that are apostates. Now, the question, what is the Galactic Federation of Light? Are there many federations? The general says the Galactic Federation of Light has been an international Jewish Masonic global scam since the 1970s, belonging to the White Brotherhood. They prepare to enslave people by allegedly invading evil aliens through the Bloom Beam plan. And their articles, they stir up almost the same messages, talking about love, light, angels, ascending teachers, and the like. Hindus often use so-called teachers. They call the arrival of Olympians an event. They never refer to Greece and the Olympians, and they report 80% correct information, and the luminous forces, they call them 20% false of their own interests. Unfortunately, many people have been deceived. The correct name is Galactic Confederation of a cluster of 13 galaxies of the Epsilon of Andromeda. Kekrops, Erichthonius, and many others were half man and half reptiles, dragons, snakes, etc. However, the former was king of the Atlaneans, and he was given many honors, in contrast to other reptilians such as Hurricane and Zeus fought. Now, how, in your opinion, can we distinguish the good from the bad? Answer, I believe that these beings came from the experiments of Prometheus. When Saturn had forced him to make monsters, some of them were on the good side. What reason and what need do you suppose Saturn had, the father of Zeus, to have to go and do genetic experiments and even make monsters? Or, we call them chimeras or transhuman beings. Half man, half animals. The Titan Saturn was the youngest son of the god Uranus and the goddess Gaia, but the most cunning and ambitious. He overthrew Uranus' father, who was in charge of the second and third missions to Earth, deviated from the orders of the Confederation of 13 Galaxies, used himself as a god, and aligned with hostile constellations consisting of intelligent reptilians that had distanced him from God. He forced the great genetic titan Prometheus to make monsters to create his own beings. In many ancient texts, we see that the ancient Greeks of the distant past probably had incredible technology, that they had flying chariots, which could correspond to modern airplanes or spaceships, or what in India they call the Vimanas. What is your opinion? The general says they certainly had super technology that were probably lost due to the sinking of Atlantis in the Aegean Sea. The Indian epics refer to super technologies that existed in ancient times, as the texts were not destroyed. Yuktas, now, face of Zeus, okay. It said that the area of Tsutsura of Crete has been found in ancient super technology that far exceeds the modern one, with robotic constructions, etc., or that Taigetos, which has a pyramid on it, a mountain in Sparta, which has a pyramid, an ancient pyramid on it, there is somewhere hidden an ancient spaceship, similar in other places such as Olympus, Mount Olympus in Greece. Do you have any information? What can you submit about that? What is your opinion? And the general said, surely there are hidden ancient super technologies in these places. We know that when in 1960 the hidden super technology was accidentally discovered by a shepherd in Tsutsura's Crete, Americans came and took that super technology with the knowledge of the Greek government. Of course, Greece was a kingdom then. In return, the U.S. funded the construction of the universities of Eureka in Crete and Patras. The galleries in Tsutsiras have been closed with concrete, and you can read a lot about this in my article, The Columbia Space Shuttle Destruction at Tsutsiras, of Crete. Now, question, what is your opinion about the Olympian gods? Will they appear again? The general answers, of course, they will appear again, they exist. These so-called gods are beings, transcendent beings, immortal with great energy. The people of that time called them gods because they saw them running with their vehicles. The word God comes from the verb God, which means I run fast. Theo, rimatheo, meaning I run fast. Okay, that's what it means in Greek. From what they say, they will show up when the time comes. However, I believe that the simple Andromedans will appear in their normal form, but the so-called gods are probably copies of them, as if they appeared in the form of energy. And people will not be able to withstand that energy and will have problems. There are already millions of Andromeda troops on our planet, but because they are fifth-dimensional beings, we do not see them. We can only see them if they want us to see them. Question, where does this belief come from? Is there information and messages, some kind of communication? How does all this come about? The general says we receive messages almost every day. They say whether we can share them or not. In what language do these messages come from? Do the Olympians or Andromedans send them? The Olympians send them in their language, and it's always Greek, the general says. Now, here he gives, after this part of the interview, he gives his own theory of Jesus Christ being supposedly the god Apollo. I don't agree with anything of this that he says, so I'm not going to translate that for you, that part of the message. The all light is one, and it forms various, its energy inexhaustible. Love is the beginning and the end of God's cycle. With all that I have said, I don't want to convince anyone whether Christ existed or not. Now, as for archangels and angels, they are the armies, let me call them that, the messengers of God, which is all light. Also called angels, there are many times the observers of the Olympians who had left on earth for thousands of years. Their official name is the 30,000 immortals of Zeus, of God. They are all immortal beings. And you can read more about the article about Christ and Christianity. Closing question, I want to mention that many texts of orthodoxy are in line with the ancient Greek literature. I've heard from university professors, in fact, from heavy dodecahedron. Many of the original ancient texts exist in the monasteries of Mount Athos, and in fact, there are workshops for their handwriting copied by monks in order to be saved if the original, which is on papyrus, is destroyed. And since I spoke about Mount Athos in the northern part of Greece, it is the second place of power, and it's an astral gate in Greece, after Delphi, where the Delphi oracle was, as we know, and in antiquity it was called the Orchard of Artemis. At the top there was a statue of Zeus about 30 feet high, if I remember correctly. Now, the Blu-ray design, or the Project Blue Book. It said in general that 2017, others will be the year of either the Olympians' intervention or the year that a false invasion will be set up through special technology, such as a Blue Beam project or Blu-ray plan. What's your opinion? He said 2017 marks the end of, say, a contract period of 13,500 years that the apostates would live on Earth. I write about this in my article, Galactic Confederation of Swarms of 13 Andromeda E galaxies. We know that earthly apostates have designed the blue beam to mislead the world, and we do not know whether the Olympians will let it happen. If they leave it for some reason, they will have it. What is the Galactic Confederation of Cluster of 13 Galaxies of Andromeda E? And the general says Andromeda E is the state empire, or 3 galaxies of Andromeda constellation, and the upper order of allies constitutes the Galactic Confederation of 13 Andromeda E galaxies. The upper allied order is made up of galaxies with Andromeda colonies and allied tribes. Emperor of the Confederation is the Holy Prince of Light, immortal, incorruptible part of all light, and it consists of galaxies and stellar systems. Spirals, Virgo, Big Dipper, Earl of Berenice, Cassiopeia, Centaur, Pleiades, Caminos, Pegasus, Sagittarius. The rulers of these galaxies and stellar systems are known transcendental entities known as the 12 gods or Olympians, and they constitute the High Council of the Galactic Confederation. Question: what is your opinion, or what do you know about the so-called satellite or shadow government? He says the satellite government has been around the world since 1970. It initially consists of Americans, Russians, and Chinese, 150 from each state, hence 450, and also 150 Andromedans, extraterrestrials that is. However, after the overthrow of the Twin Towers in 2001, there was a separation, so we now have 2 satellite governments, one with Americans and Andromedans, and the other with Russians, Chinese, and Andromedans. In recent years, Indians, Brazilians, South Africans, members of the BRICS alliance, have also been involved, and here the same ratio, 450 Earthlings and 150 Andromedans. The shadow government is made up of Americans from CIA Secret Service, Majestic 12, which essentially rules the United States. It's said the leader is of Greek origin. Now, what do you think is happening on our planet today with governments around the world? Are they being led somewhere by someone? Is there a hidden plan? He says Russia and its allies are led by the Andromeda Olympians, who have given them exotic super technologies, especially for bringing down buildings, for example. The general goes on to say the US, EU, NATO are ruled by extraterrestrials and terrestrial apostates. It's discussed in various conspiracy theories that we are leading. The question says, to a pan-religion, a one-world government, one religion. What about this question? What's going on with that? And the general says the apostates, earthly and extraterrestrial, have decided to enslave all the people of the planet in a one-world government, in a one-world religion. They call it the New World Order of Things. And they also intend to exterminate. They have a depopulation plan, and I believe they will not succeed. The guards know, the general says. Question: do you believe, as many claim, that there will be a global economic collapse? He says, I'm not an economist to know what will happen. If it does, however, there will probably be uncontrollable situations. Do you think, as many argue, they will be leading a DG World War, a third World War? Probably the latest development in Syria, Ukraine, etc. It shows. I don't know if they will succeed. According to a message on the planet, there are 2 billion inanimate human beings and 5 billion inanimate. I believe he wants to say 5 billion inanimate to 5 billion animate. Now, in the case we're driving, do you think that there will be an intervention of the Olympians, perhaps much earlier than their possible original plans? And if so, in what way? He says, in April 2017, as we said, The 13,500-year contract with the apostate expires. The Andromedans strictly abide by the terms of the contract as they strictly abide by the laws of the universe. However, they have performed some minor interventions on serious issues. The time is now very close. As we have been told, in 2018, the final battle took place. The Battle of Battles, the huge spaceship is already approaching our solar system, and that is why we see, especially in the sun, huge Andromeda Olympian forces coming. I remind you that the sun has been formed internally by the Andromedans for years, and a huge cosmodrome with a diameter of 500,000 kilometers has been built in it. We also have seen from SOHO solar observatories that many spaceships are refueled there by sucking off the plasma from the sun, from the surface of the sun. Question, what did you mean in 2018 will be the final battle, the Battle of Battles? Where will, I guess this article was written before 2018. Where will it take place, on Earth or in space? Will this be the so-called Armageddon? He said it will happen in our solar system and beyond, nothing to do with, I don't know what this, just, with the Third World War. Question, what is your opinion about various world leaders, especially Putin? He says, except for Putin, everyone else is a reptilian renegade. Putin is the earthly representation of luminous forces. Now, what is, he talks about various Greek governments here. I'm not going to go into that. Based on today's data, what do you think the future of our country at all levels will be? And he says Greece will very soon be freed from its sufferings. Well, I don't see that happening. But then they approach the end of the interview and they thank each other and everything for the information that the tedious interview and the information that the general gave to him. Well, we've heard all this before, but he seems to have knowledge from what he says concerning how many extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings are, I guess it's what you could say, forces of good and evil. I mean, even in the book of the Maccabees, when an archangel asked one of the Maccabee leaders, what do you see above your heads? They said, we see a battle going on. They saw a vision of God's forces fighting against evil forces. And the archangel says, you saw correctly. So obviously, their spiritual eyes were open and they saw that. It's not that we see that kind of a thing all the time, because it's a special frequency that our eyes cannot see. So we do have places in the Holy Bible, in the Old and the New Testament, concerning angels around us, God's angels, and the opposite. So anyway, please leave your comments on this, and thank you for your support. I'm sorry it was so long. I hope you found it interesting.